What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be doing our Game Week 11 preview and also a quick review of Game Week 10. So let's just get straight into it then. We finished on 51 points. The average points for this week was 66, so safe to say it was a pretty disappointing week. So we'll start by going through the defense. Areola, he got me 3 points against Everton. Kind of disappointed that he didn't keep a clean sheet. That game kind of had like a 0-0 written all over it, but to be fair, Everton actually have a bit of attacking threat to them this season, and even though he didn't keep a clean sheet, Areola did get some save points for me, so 3 points, we'll take it. I said in the last video, there's not a lot of goalkeepers right now keeping clean sheets, so we'll take the save points, and Areola is probably still the best goalkeeping option in terms of budget keepers. The only one you would maybe even consider apart from him is Johnson at Palace, just because he has some good fixtures coming up. But either way, I'm going to be sticking with Areola for the long term. So for the starting 3 defenders, I had Trippier, Udogie, and Cash. Obviously, Udogie ended up not playing, and I knew that I was kind of taking a risk on that because I wasn't 100% sure if he was going to play. He didn't play, so Kabore subbed in. Didn't make a difference because Kabore got 0 points and Udogie got 0 points. With Trippier, he got a 0-pointer as well, and obviously we're seeing a lot of overreaction. Obviously, I decided to keep Trippier last week when I could have sold him and kept Son, so obviously in hindsight it would have been much better for me to keep Son. But even though Trippier got the 0-pointer, I'm not actually too put off by him, because to be honest, that was probably one of the worst games I've watched Trippier play for Newcastle, not even just this season, but he still put up 0.57 expected assists. And if you look back at the last couple of games he's played, he dropped a 10-pointer against Palace and a 6-pointer against West Ham. In those respective games, he put up 0.43 expected assists and 0.48 expected assists, so that was less than what he put up against Wolves. So Trippier owners can actually count themselves a bit unlucky that he didn't get a return against Wolves, but that's just how the game is sometimes. And for me personally, I did have a lot of that bad luck this game week. One thing that I was lucky with was Matty Cash. He got subbed off before Villa conceded. Obviously Villa won 3-1, but he got subbed off before that Luton goal, so he banked his clean sheet points luckily. He definitely should have had an assist in this game as well. There was one moment in the game where he squared the ball to Watkins. Watkins was about 7 or 8 yards out and he definitely should have buried it, but it looked like he was kind of complacent, almost like he was just expecting the ball to hit the net, which is kind of understandable in the form that he's in recently and the fact he was playing Luton. But the keeper ended up making a really good save, and Matty Cash was kind of robbed of an assist there. As you can see, his expected assist this game was 0.32, and I think that's mainly down to the fact that he scored the ball to Watkins for that chance. But obviously can't complain too much. We got the clean sheet when obviously Villa didn't keep the clean sheet, so at least one thing went their way this game week. And then moving on to the midfield, it doesn't actually look that bad when you consider the fact that 3 out of the 4 midfielders returned. But if you look at it from my perspective, I obviously transferred out Son this week to get Saka in. Son gets a 10-pointer and Saka gets a 6-pointer. Saka was kind of lucky to get the assist that he got. So Saka swings in a corner, the keeper parries it, and then Nketiah puts it in the back of the net, and he did get the assist. But I've seen situations like that where the players didn't get the assist. So again, another thing that went our way, luckily, because Saka looked like he was definitely going to get a blank that game. As you can see by his data in this game, he had 0 expected goals and 0.06 expected assists, so we were lucky to get any returns, and that is kind of disappointing considering that we're playing the worst team in the league right now at home. Saka was a genuine captaincy option for me this week, so if anybody watching this did captain Saka, I do feel for you, because it was a good fixture on paper to captain him, but he just didn't turn up. The only positive is that he didn't blank, and he seems to be doing that a lot this season, where even when he's not playing well, he's still scraping an assist or a goal out of somewhere, so that is a positive at least. And then just covering the rest of the midfield, Neto had a really good game against Newcastle. I've been really impressed with him this season, but sadly he did pull up with a hamstring injury in the latter stages of that game, so that is kind of disappointing because I brought him in my wild card a couple of weeks ago and I've been really happy with him since. As you can see, he had returned in 8 consecutive game weeks, so yeah, he was definitely performing for me, and it is unfortunate that I'm now going to have to waste a transfer to get him out of the team. It looks like he's going to be out for a couple of weeks with that hamstring injury, but he may possibly be back after the international break next week. So obviously that is disappointing, but what was more disappointing is Matoma. I really expected good things from him against Fulham. Fulham haven't been looking great this season. Now, I only watched the highlights of this game. Looking at his underlying stats, 0.42 expected goal involvements isn't too bad. Like, you would maybe hope he gets something out of that. But when I was watching the highlights, it looked like he was carrying a knock or something. Now, he's not been reported injured or anything from De Zerbi. There's been nothing mentioned in the press conferences today about him being injured. And he has been playing a lot of minutes, more than any Brighton attacker. And not just in the league, he's also been playing a lot of minutes in the cups as well. So maybe that was just a bit of fatigue starting to show from all the minutes he's been accumulating. But the good thing is Brighton were already knocked out of the EFL Cup, so he didn't play midweek. He had a full week's rest now, so hoping that he comes back stronger against Everton and looks fitter and sharper. And then obviously after Everton he has Sheffield and Forest as well, so I brought him in for those 4 fixtures. Like I said, I had high hopes for the Fulham fixture, didn't work out that way, but I'm hoping he can kick on now for the Everton, Sheffield and Forest games, so I haven't lost faith in him just yet. And then the last midfielder to cover is Salah. So Salah, he got a goal against Forest. Like I've said so many times about Salah, and the reason why I had him in my team from game week 1 is he's just inevitable. He was really quiet this game. Like, obviously he has 0.71 XGI, which is great. Obviously that's great underlying stats. And again, this is another game where I only watched the highlights, so I don't know if there's anything that I missed. But from what I seen, he didn't look a huge threat throughout the game. He created a couple chances here and there, but obviously his goal came from a Turner howler. Like, I don't know what Turner was thinking. He comes running out of his goal. He's probably like 30-40 yards out of goal, misjudges the ball, and then Salah just runs in behind him and taps it in the open net. So that's kind of just the luck that Salah's getting right now. Even against Everton when he got 2 goals, one was a penalty and one was like an 87th minute against the run of play goal, and Everton were already down to 10 men. So obviously it's great for me as a Salah owner to get those points, but obviously at the same time, because I've went against him the last couple of weeks as a captain option and he's outscored my captain for the last 3 weeks now, it's not ideal, but it is just something you have to deal with, and he is getting the rub of the green right now. So he does have Luton away this week, so he's again a strong captaincy choice, so it would not surprise me at all if he bagged a couple of goals against Luton. And then moving on to the front 3, since it was just speaking about captaincy choices, obviously the thing that let me down the most this week was going with Watkins as captain. Now in hindsight, it's easy for me to sit and say, oh, I should have captained Haaland or I should have captained Salah, but I don't regret picking Watkins as a captain this week at all. He had a really, really good fixture against Luton. He's banging form, and it's genuinely just really, really bad luck that he blanked this game. Obviously coming into this game, he hadn't blanked since game week 4. This is only his 2nd blank of the season, and to make matters worse, he actually put up his highest expected goals involvement of the season. To put that in perspective, a couple of weeks ago when he bagged a hat-trick and 2 assists against Brighton, his expected goal involvement was 0.98, which is unbelievable. But against Luton, when he blanked, his expected goals involvement was 1.4. So he should have had a goal and an assist minimum, bare minimum. Like I say, I don't regret captaining Watkins for that fixture. He definitely should have scored. Like I mentioned earlier, there was that chance where Matty Cash scored it across the box. He was like 7 or 8 yards out and he should have just buried it, but it looked like he was complacent or something. And then he also set up a couple of really good chances for Zaniolo, which were not taken. So yeah, just really, really bad luck. There's not much I can do about it now. My thinking going into it was absolutely correct, and he definitely should have hauled against Luton. So yeah, I can confidently put that down to bad luck. And then moving on to that City double up, obviously Alvarez blanked. He was probably unfortunate not to get on the score sheet because United were absolutely terrible, and it pains me to say that as a United fan, but we just look absolutely awful, and it kind of makes you wonder why I just didn't captain Haaland this week, because I've been watching United all season. I know how bad we've looked. If you think that Watkins' XGI was crazy high, look at Haaland's XGI against United. He had 2.51 expected goals involvement. Obviously he got 2 goals and an assist, so he met that perfectly. Now obviously his XG is a bit bumped up because he got the penalty, which in my opinion was a very, very soft penalty. Maybe I'm a bit biased, but I do think it was soft. But yeah, for obviously all the players going without Haaland, it's not looking great for you, considering that he just got 16 points against United and his next fixture is Bournemouth at home. For me, he's definitely going to be my captain this week. There's no way I'm not captaining Haaland against Bournemouth at home. Even though Salah's got Luton away, I just can't not captain Haaland when he's got Bournemouth at home. There's not really much more more I can say about him. People were obviously starting to doubt him and transfer him out because he got 2 blanks in a row, but now he's got 2 games where he's returned in a row and he's on 11 goals and 2 assists for the season. So if that's him in bad form, you definitely don't want to be without him when he hits his good form. But yeah, overall, like I say, kind of a disappointing week in terms of the final points tally. It was a big red arrow for me, unfortunately. But like I said, there was a lot of bad luck involved in this week. Obviously, there was a couple of things that went my way, but the last few weeks, the main thing that's cost me is my captaincy choices. Obviously, this week it was Watkins that blanked when he had 1.4 XGI. The week previous, obviously Haaland did get points for me, but Salah and Watkins both outscored him as captaincy options. And then even the week before that, I captained Son against Luton and he blanked while Salah got 15 points. So I would be way, way higher up the rankings right now if I was getting my captaincy choices right. But that's a good thing about the game right now. It's no longer a situation where everyone's just automatically captaining Haaland. There actually is some thought that has to go into your captaincy choices. And as you've seen in my circumstances, it's made a huge difference in terms of red arrows for me because I would be probably in the top 100k, maybe even higher if I was getting my captaincy choices right. But yeah, like I say, definitely a good thing for the state of the game overall. Last season was very, very dull. Everybody just captaining Haaland every week, 90+% ownership. And there was no real thought going into it. But the last few game weeks in particular, you're really, really seeing it pay off for people getting the captaincy choices right, especially people who've captained Salah the last couple of weeks. So I do hope it stays like this for a while now, and we actually do have to consider captaining other people, and it's not just a case of Haaland starting to go on a run again and everyone just automatically captaining him again. Long may it continue. And then moving on to my game week 11 confirmed team, we're going to be going with Areola in goal against Brentford. We do have Turner as an option on the bench, and even though he's playing at home, he's playing against Villa, and I don't think he's going to keep a clean sheet the way Villa are playing right now. I don't expect West Ham to keep a clean sheet either, to be honest, but I just think he has a better chance to keep a clean sheet than Turner does. And then for the back three, we've got Trippier, Cash, and Udogie. So I'm going to quickly talk about Udogie. So with Udogie, obviously he didn't play against Palace the last game, and there was actually 8 or 9 days between that Palace game and the Chelsea game because Spurs play on Monday. So I'm hoping that he's back for that fixture, but I'm just not 100% sure. The best thing to do is just keep an eye for the press conference comments from the manager. I haven't seen anything about Udogie specifically from any of the press conferences yet, but as you can see by this tweet here, this is a direct quote from Robert De Zerbi's press conference today. So he's confirmed that Estupiñán's still not available, but Lamptey is back and he will be available for selection for that Everton game. And for me, that is great news because I have Lamptey on my bench. So I could just go ahead and start him ahead of Udogie, but I actually think Udogie has a better fixture, which is wild to say because Udogie's got Chelsea at home and Lamptey's got Everton away. But with Brighton leaking goals this season, and like I mentioned earlier, Everton are actually providing a decent attacking threat this season. I don't expect Brighton to go away to Goodison Park and keep a clean sheet, but I've got Lamptey as my first sub. I do expect him to start or play against Everton. And with Udogie, I think it's going to be a situation where he either starts or he doesn't play at all. I don't see him being subbed on like 60, 70 minutes into the game. It's either going to be he's fit to start or he doesn't play. So I'm going to start Udogie, but if he doesn't play, then this is going to be a case of Lamptey coming in his place. So it is a good thing for me that Lamptey's back from injury because I was potentially going to have to take a hit just to get another defender in to cover for Udogie because I only had one free transfer this week and I had to use that transfer to get Neto out of my team because like I mentioned earlier, he picked up that hamstring injury and he's going to be out for the next couple of weeks. So obviously, as you can see by the team, I got rid of Neto and I brought in Wine in his place. I was strongly tempted to go for Gordon. I was actually tempted to go for Gordon when I wildcarded a couple of weeks ago and brought Neto in. It was a 50-50 between Neto and Gordon. But as you can see by the Newcastle fixtures over the next while, I'm not super convinced by them. They've obviously got Arsenal at home. Bournemouth away is a good fixture, but then after that, they've got Chelsea, United, Everton, Spurs. So I didn't like Gordon for like the next 5 or 6 fixtures. But with Wine, he has better fixtures in my opinion. He has Sheffield, Fulham, Burnley, and Forest all coming up in the next 5 or 6 games. Obviously, he's got Spurs and Arsenal between those couple of games I mentioned, but at that point I'm hoping to get rid of Anderson and maybe upgrade him to Palmer, and in that way I can just rotate Wine out if I need to. But to be honest, Wolves actually do well in the bigger games, especially playing on the counter, so I am tempted to just play him in the Spurs and Arsenal game anyway because he could definitely grab something on the counter. But going back to the defence, because I haven't covered Cash and Trippier, so Trippier obviously has Arsenal at home. I just spoke about Newcastle briefly. Isn't the most favourable fixture, but at the same time Newcastle's home form is usually pretty good. And like I said, even when Trippier had his worst game of the season so far, he still dropped 0.57 expected assists. He's going to get chances to wipe the ball into the box on set pieces. Newcastle are a big team. I've spoken about all this before. You can say what you want about Trippier last week and his 0-pointer, but at the end of the day, he's still a really good FPL asset. If I could go back in time and get rid of Trippier and keep Son last week, I probably would. But just because it didn't work out for me last game week, I'm not just going to all of a sudden rip up my game plan, take -4s, -8s just to get Son back in. Trippier's still a really good FPL asset, even when he's playing against the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, United in the next few games. And with Matty Cash, nothing's changed. He's still looking like a really, really good attacking threat. Like I said earlier, he definitely should have had an assist against Luton last week and was unfortunate not to get that assist. Forest away is a bit of a trickier fixture, but like I say, he provides a really good attacking threat, and he's definitely still a lock in my team for the next 4 game weeks. And with Villa players in general, like I said about Watkins earlier, I'm only really going to consider transferring them out when it gets to game week 15 and their fixtures kind of turn. But I don't think it's a necessity to transfer them out at game week 15. Obviously, City and Arsenal's not ideal games to have back-to-back. But then once they get through that, they've got Brentford and Sheffield and United are terrible right now. Villa's probably going to destroy United, sadly. And then after that United game, they've got Burnley and Everton. So they're not really terrible fixtures. It's mainly just that City and Arsenal game back-to-back that's off-putting. But you could definitely just get another defender in and rotate him in and out. And then moving on to the midfield, obviously I covered Hwine already. He has a really good fixture against Sheffield. There was only really 3 players I strongly considered bringing in as a Neto replacement. Hwine was obviously one of them, which is kind of just a sidestep. The other 2 players were Gordon and Palmer. And like I mentioned with Gordon, didn't really like to look at his fixtures as an attacking prospect for the next 5. And with Gordon, he's been playing a lot of games as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if we kind of seen a similar situation to what we just seen with Matoma in the last game week, where he just looks fatigued. And then with Palmer, I've just got his fixtures in front of me now. And as you can see, they're not ideal. He's got Spurs, City, Newcastle, Brighton, United. It's only really like game week 16 where they really start to turn. So, and I'm definitely going to strongly consider bringing him in for game week 16. It's kind of hard to turn a player like him down when he's available for 5 million. He seems to be nailed on in terms of minutes right now, and he potentially takes penalties as well. Obviously, he took the last 2 penalties for Chelsea. Pochettino did say in a press conference that he kind of leaves the penalty decision up to the players. Like maybe Sterling can take a penalty, maybe Palmer takes a penalty, but Palmer is definitely a better pen taker than Sterling, so I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being like the nailed on guy for penalties. But yeah, for now I've went for Hwine as my Neto replacement, and then like I said, Palmer will probably come into my team across the next few game weeks in replacement of Anderson. And then the rest of the midfield, I've got Salah facing Luton, Matoma facing Everton, and Saka facing Newcastle. With Saka, I'm not really expecting a lot from him this game week because it is a pretty difficult fixture. I more so just brought him in because I really like the look of him for that Sheffield fixture, and he did disappoint in that fixture. But then after this Newcastle fixture is done and dusted, he's got Burnley, Brentford, Wolves, Luton in the next 4. And he overall just has good fixtures for the next while. After that, obviously, he has a couple difficult ones in there, like that Villa, Brighton, Liverpool fixture run is pretty difficult, but after that then he's got West Ham, Fulham, Palace, Forest, so he was always going to be a long-term hold for me. He's a player I had since game week 1, and the only reason I ever transferred him out a couple of weeks ago was because of that injury he was carrying. But now that he seems to be back and nailed on for the 90 minutes again, he's definitely staying on my team for the long term. And talking about long-term players, Salah is another one of those long-term players. Like I mentioned earlier, definitely a strong contender for captaincy this week. I'm probably not going to give the armband to him because I'm going to give it to Haaland because he's got Bournemouth at home. But it would not surprise me if for the 4th game week running, I didn't captain Salah and he made me regret it. And like I said earlier, Salah just feels inevitable right now. Even when he's playing bad, he's still getting returns. So yeah, if you do captain him this week, you're definitely not making a bad decision. And then the last midfielder, like I mentioned, Matoma has Everton. Everton away is a pretty difficult fixture. But like I say, obviously Brighton didn't have to play in the cup in the midweek, so I'm hoping that Matoma's sort of back fresh and sharp again because he really didn't look at himself against Fulham. So I'm hoping that he can like scrape a return or something against Everton and then really kick on going into that Sheffield at home game. And then the front 3 is locked for me for the next while, I'd say. So I've got Watkins, Haaland and Alvarez. I'm expecting big things this week from Haaland and Alvarez. Alvarez obviously blanked last week, so I'm hoping he gets back in the score sheet again, and then I'm hoping Haaland can grab 2 or 3 against Bournemouth. Along with Luton and Sheffield United, Bournemouth look just as poor defensively as those two teams, so I do expect City to run riot playing against them at home. And the last attacker, we've got Watkins, and he's playing Forest away. Obviously, I kind of covered the Forest away fixture when I was talking about cash. I think it's a pretty tricky fixture. I know obviously Forest just got tanked by Liverpool last week, but when Forest play at home, they seem to be a bit more organised. So I genuinely would not be surprised if we seen another Watkins blank. But at the same time, Villa are playing great football right now, and if there is going to be a Villa goal, for the most part, Watkins will be involved in that. But yeah, like I say, for the meantime, that front three is pretty nailed on. Not planning on making any changes to it anytime soon. If I am thinking a little bit further ahead, maybe game week 15, I've banked 2 transfers by then, and then I could transfer Watkins out, downgrade him to a cheaper striker, and then go for Son again. So there is options for me, but for now, Watkins is definitely staying in the team. So yeah, overall, I am pretty happy with my team. They've actually been really solid since I've wildcarded, and like I said earlier, the only thing that's really let me down is my captaincy choices. So I am hoping for this week that Haaland does manage to outscore the likes of Salah, the likes of Watkins, the likes of Saka, and I am pretty confident that he will do that against Bournemouth. The only real threat to that is if Salah hauls against Luton, which is definitely a possibility, but like I said, I just like the look of that Bournemouth at home fixture better. So I'm definitely going to stick with Haaland for the armband for this game week. That's going to do it for this week. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like. And if you have any questions about game week 11, anything that I didn't cover in this video, make sure to drop a comment below and let me know your dilemmas, and I'll see if I can maybe help with that. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck in game week 11. Peace.